The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm David Falwell. I'll be your host. We're going to be talking about how to 2x your referrals. Super excited to have everybody on the webinar. I had more registrations than we anticipated, and excited to have you all here. A couple housekeeping items for the webinar. If you have any questions throughout, feel free to drop those into the chat. We'll be answering those throughout the webinar and then at the end as well. And if for any reason we're unable to get to you, we will make sure that we get an email back to you later today or tomorrow. Also, just so you are aware, the webinar will be recorded. So we'll be able to, if you want to share this with your colleagues or you just want to review it later on, we will have all of the content available. And we'll also be sharing the deck so you will be able to keep and use this for your information later on. So the agenda for today, first of all, we'll do a quick round of introductions. Then we're going to talk about the digital transformation and the impact on referrals. Next, where we'll be spending the majority of our time is talking about how Gifted Healthcare grew their referral program. And then we'll be talking just briefly on 7 tips that you can use to improve your current referral program. So with that, I'm David Falwell. I'm the president and founder of Staffing Referrals, and I am super excited to be joined by Rachel Arnold, who's the director of recruiting at Gifted Healthcare, and one of our favorite customers and somebody who I really think is just doing amazing stuff in the staffing industry. So thanks for joining, Rachel, and if you wouldn't mind, just give a quick background on your experience.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I started at Gifted about 4.5 years ago, and I actually have a huge marketing background. And so when I started at Gifted, I was in a dual role with HR and marketing. Then I moved over straight to the marketing side of things. And now I'm the director of recruitment. So I've held a lot of seats at Gifted. So I have a lot of insight to like different things we've tried and what's worked, what hasn't worked. But I moved over to recruitment with this big marketing background to help kind of drive that side of things with recruiters.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today. So we're going to jump through a couple slides and then get into the meat of the conversation where Rachel's going to be talking about how Gifted moved their referral program forward. So Staffing Referrals is a automated referral management platform, and we help staffing firms get more referrals. Only throwing this slide up just because I wanted you to understand we work across all verticals, and we work with quite a variety of sizes of staffing firms. And we consistently are able to help staffing firms get more referrals from their current talent pool. So with that, let's jump into the meat of the conversation. So the goal for today is to give you specific and actionable steps to get more referrals from your current talent pool. And with that, I think it helps to kind of zoom out and think about where we are in the world and where we are currently. And right now, we live in the most digitally connected time in history. It's actually kind of astounding when you look at how much is happening in every minute of every day when it comes to the digital transformation. There are 570 new websites created every minute, 188 million emails sent, and 12 new businesses launched. I was pretty blown away when I came across these stats just to think about the pace of change within business that we are all experiencing and dealing with on a daily basis. And this change isn't specific to any industry. It is really impacting all industries. And this year, as many of you know, COVID has, I think, accelerated the digital transformation and the pace of change. So not only are we kind of going through all of this change and have all of these things happening quickly, but it's definitely impacting all businesses. But what we've noticed is that the leaders within each of these business industries are using new tools to grow faster. And one of the things that we've identified is that there's a common theme that the fastest growing businesses almost all use digital referral programs. For example, Airbnb boosted their bookings by 300% with their digital referral program. It was one of the cornerstones for their growth early on and has been a key component for growing their business. Another example is Dropbox. They increased signups by 60% by implementing a referral program. And this has been a key component for them as well for growing their business. Lastly, Lyft, a brand that many of us know and love, they've used referrals not only to get new drivers to work for them, but also to get new customers. And they've had a couple different referral programs that have gone through many variations. And so what you can see is that most modern businesses understand the power of recommendations from friends and family. And this isn't limited to, non-staffing businesses. It's actually really impacting staffing as well. And we can see this, that one of the reports we look at, we saw that referrals in the last 3 years have gone from the third third best source for candidates to the number one source for the majority of staffing agencies. And it makes sense. Referrals are typically, or can be, up to 55% faster to hire. They can save up to $3,000 per placement, and they have 25% higher retention rates. So there's some good things that go along with referrals. And just anecdotally, when I think about it, most of the jobs and most of the people I've hired have come through friends or recommendations. And this tends to be the people that work the best at your company, because people know you and know what makes sense. So it makes sense to see referrals growing in this way. So what does this mean for staffing, and staffing specifically with regards to referral programs? Well, there's kind of an old way, or the historical way of doing referrals, which staff referrals we call analog referrals. And there's a couple things that aren't great with this. It kind of relies on your mental Rolodex, or who can you think of off the top of your head when you're asking for a referral. It's also tied to kind of one-off outreach, where you're reminding your recruiter to reach out. And I would guess that in the next 3 to 5 years, 90% or more of staffing firms are using some form of automated referral management system. And that's because it allows you to access your talent's digital network. It automates and standardizes the process. And it's kind of like, if you think about with staffing firms, 10 years ago, how many staffing firms were using texting? It was very few. It was pretty limited. And at this point, I think almost the majority have texting somewhere in their outreach and communication strategy. And I think that's going to be the same kind of standard when it comes to referrals, in terms of how they're managed and how they work. All right, so now that we're done with that, let's jump into the best part of the panel. So Rachel is joining us to talk about how Gifted Healthcare doubled referral placements in 90 days with staffing referrals. And just a little background on Gifted. They are a pretty incredible company to work with from a partner standpoint, but I can also tell you that the travel nurses that work with them love them. You can see the reviews here on the bottom right. 4.78 with 536 reviews. And they're a fast-growing company loved by candidates and clients alike, and have over 1,000 active brand ambassadors. And with that, got a couple questions for you, Rachel. So to start off, why did Gifted decide to partner with Staffing Referrals?
Yeah, so being on the marketing side of things, we were constantly looking at what is coming in, like where are nurses coming from, and like what is happening. So at the end of 2018 into 2019, we noticed a decline in referrals. And in the past, it had always been our number one source. So when we started deeper diving into that to figure out what was happening, we noticed that, on top of everything else that recruiters had to deal with, this is another barrier that they had to overcome: asking for reviews, then asking for referrals, asking about jobs. And so it was just another part of the issue, was that they had to physically ask for them. And there was nothing automated about it whatsoever. Not that even we were thinking that forward about it, but we were like, it's just another thing they have to do, along with this other big list of things that they have to do every time they talk to their nurses. So I know we had demoed Staffing Referrals, I feel like forever ago, like right when it first came out. And even though we loved it, we just weren't in the place with our recruitment team to launch it at that point. And so, and here we are.
Which is awesome. And I think I remember meeting you at TravCon a few years back, and then talking about I found out that you were in marketing and into HubSpot. I was like, all right, perfect. So super.
Yeah, exactly.
Been super great working together. So what impact have you seen with having the Staffing Referrals platform in place?
So we launched Staffing Referrals on November 15th of 2019. So it's almost been a year. And I know that drop dead date so well, because it's like when things really shifted for us. And then, we went through COVID. So initially, our old referral program, there was only something in it for the person that was referring the nurses. And so automatically that shift from having something in it for the person being referred as well as the person that was referring, that created a sense of like buzz around the whole program itself. Because at that point we had nurse ambassadors, but again, something in it for them. There wasn't something in it like, why am I going to call if I'm the person being referred? There's really nothing in it for me other than, you're telling me Gifted is great, but nurses are really driven by money. We all know this. So we ended up seeing automatically a ton of buy-in from our nurses. Everyone was excited about the possibility of what could happen. And along with that, our recruiters were excited because nothing makes them more excited than nurses being excited about something they're pitching them. And so pretty instantly, we saw a huge increase in our referrals coming through. And then it really kept shifting. When we got into COVID, that was like a whole different ballgame. And you worked hand in hand with us for that. That whole time, we saw even like everything doubled with our referrals. We saw it was a massive increase.
Yeah, and you guys did a specific campaign for referrals around that time, which I think was smart and also effective, which is somewhat unique as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how would you describe the kind of the implementation and management of your referral program?
So the implementation was terrifying, of course, because it was like a new software and something that was new. And so that's always scary. Brandon and I kind of talked like every single day for how this was going to look, because our recruiters, for them, it was like another thing they had to log into, but they didn't. They don't have to log into it at all. We're doing all the stuff behind the scenes that makes it so easy for them. So presenting it to them like that, they were so excited. And then them having their own landing page to share their email signature, so that when a nurse wants to refer somebody, they can just click on it and like, here it is, here's the person, send them my way. So it was scary to think about, but the actual implementation was like probably one of the easiest things I've ever done with the software.
I love hearing that, and I'm also, it's interesting to hear when you talk about the recruiters and the digital business cards. I'm just curious if you have any stories or any anecdotes about how those are being used, or when you recommend that they're shared. Anything that ties to that.
Yeah, we use it all the time. So on everybody's email signature, they have their own link. It is a really great opportunity whenever we are talking to nurses and they're not interested in an assignment or whatever we're talking to them about. It's a really great opportunity at that point to say, hey, that's cool, but if you have any great RN friends that you think would be a good fit, send them my way, and they can just send them the link. They're also sharing it on social media too. We've seen a lot of that. And then we have a few nurses that love their digital page as well, where they're sharing it on social media. Yeah. It's some of our top referrals, the same people, but they are like, this doesn't say that they're paid out. What's going on? So I have to go update it right then and there, which is great though. I love that they're bought into it and like they get excited about it.
Well, that's awesome, and it's also a tip for. I mean, I think anybody that's on the call is that the ability for recruiters to be able to share links out with their profiles so people can refer directly to them is super valuable, and you guys have done a great job with that. I mean, one of the I think I've just heard you say as well, but it's cool to think about getting referrals from people who maybe don't take the job. It's like as you mentioned, it's like, all right, if you're not looking for a position right now, that's fine. But if you happen to know anybody, you can refer them and still earn some extra money. I think that's a great way to kind of open up the referral program as well. We've kind of already touched on this a little bit, but it sounds like I think you're like the best example of how to implement a software from what I've seen, because you've got great adoption with your recruiters. But how would you describe that process, or what steps you took to get the adoption with your recruiters?
Yeah, so that probably was the biggest barrier to overcome, because it was a cultural shift for us as a company, where we were talking a lot about like jobs and placements, and we had to shift kind of the entire narrative from the top to the bottom about referrals. Because like I said, we were seeing a decline in them, and we knew how valuable they were to our business. They're the closest to the dollar. They're the people that stay with us the longest. And we want them referring, on social media, telling other people about us. So we did a lot of like hoorah around it. For probably 4 months. We even did a contest in January to make sure that nobody could forget about it. We like ingrained it in everybody's brain that it's something you always are talking about. Make sure that you're saying it. Make sure it's on your signature link. It just had to be a constant for a little while so that it was adopted across the board. And so we don't just have our recruiters in staffing referrals. We also have like anybody that touches a nurse kind of like lives in there, because we want them to have a nurse to have the same experience across the board. Like somebody that is initially taking the phone call from a nurse, they have the same opportunity as somebody that's always talking to the nurse to ask for referrals, you know? So we adopted it across the board. And I think that made a huge difference because now it's just part of our culture.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I've just seen how it's picked up with you guys and how fast it did. So I think you did a great job of making sure that alignment was there. I think with any technology that's going to go company wide, you see, from the outside, I see staffing firms that sometimes have the one person decision and then try to slam it in without getting everybody alignment. And it's amazing to see the difference in how well things work when you spend the time to make sure everybody's aligned and moving in the right direction together. How do you referrals compare to all of your other lead sources?
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to share that data because I think that it's so powerful. So I pulled it yesterday, and it's 47% of our active working nurses is referrals. And I had no idea the number was going to be so big, but that's the impact that it has on our business.
That's really amazing.
Crazy.
That is crazy. I've talked with a lot of travel nursing companies, and rarely do I hear 50% of the business. So you guys are, that goes hand in hand with the implementation of referral program, but also clearly people like working with you because they're, we talk with people all the time, and they're like, oh, well, we'll get a ton of referrals. It's like, well, they have to love your recruiters first. They have to love the experience with your brand. Otherwise, referrals just aren't the right move. So that's you guys are clearly doing a lot of things right. How would you describe the kind of the change in how you're managing referrals beforehand, and what your process looked like beforehand, shifting to an automated referral management system?
Well, it's a lot easier now, right? Because there's not a whole lot of, there's still some work, but it's definitely like, takes a lot of the work out of it. One of my favorite features about staffing referrals is the broadcast jobs capability. I feel like it's so powerful every time that we do that. And the integration with TextUs makes it so seamless. We always get a plethora of referrals that come in. So the digital side of it has made it so much easier for our nurses, for our recruiters, and I think it's helping us to get them to the patients faster too. Like where before, maybe you're getting it in an email and you're trying to follow up with them, and like the process just was taking longer, where now they just like land or calling or whatever, and then they're going straight through.
That's awesome. And how much do you think it saved your recruiters time, or does it save you time, I guess, in terms of the promotion compared to what you were doing before?
Oh, so much. The fact that when you do an upload for invites and they go on this journey, they're automatically, we don't have to do anything, right? So we're just sit back and let them just go through the 6-touch journey. And then usually at that last email, when it's like, okay, this is the last time, they're like, oh, wait, I do want to sign up to be a referral. So it definitely has saved a lot of time. And it's taken, like I said, it's taken a lot of the work out of it because there's not a whole lot to do. Like, here's the link, send me your friends. And of course, we want our nurses that are working for us that are, amazing to send us more people like them. Mm-hmm. And they get that too.
And just out of curiosity, I know we didn't even talk about this question, but when it comes to the brand ambassadors and people using the product, you mentioned some nurses really like the page. Have you heard any experience? Sometimes people say, oh, well, it's travel nurses. I'm not sure how they'll know how to use a link or share a link, but what are your thoughts around that? And I guess the adoption from the nurses.
Well, it's like 50-50. Some of them, the ones that are like, are real nurse advocates that are always talking about Gifted on social platforms, like those are the ones that actually go in and look at it. Then there's like the whole other side of everybody else that doesn't even read things that come through, right?
Yeah.
So they just like click on it, they sign themselves back up, and we're like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
But I think that's just the world we're in right now, where people just don't read things.
Yep. Yep. Well, and it's interesting is what we've seen pretty consistently, and there's usually the 80-20 rule for business, and with brand ambassadors and referrals, we see that it might be even closer to like a 90-10 rule, where 10% of the people referring are referring 90% of the people. Because there's a lot of times we'll find that there'll be a few nurses, to your point, that are they're the influencers, they're in Gypsy Nurse, they're out there publishing, posting stuff all the time. And those are the ones that sometimes really, really go for it and push to get more referrals through the door. One other thing you mentioned that you shifted to the what we always call the dual-sided referral, and you were doing the single-sided before. Can you just talk a little bit about that and kind of the decision process behind that?
Yeah, well, that's definitely been probably the biggest game changer for everything is that. So we do, a 500-500 split, and our nurses love that, almost to a fault. They're like, where am I at? When do I get paid? But it was part of like the culture shift, because before there was a lot more in it for the person that was referring the nurse, but now, there's something in it for both parties. And what we see more often than not is it's a domino effect, right? So I refer somebody, we start working, we both get the $500, then this person's going to refer somebody else, and it just keeps rolling down. But meanwhile, the original referrer, we see there's probably like, our top 10 nurses that are referring people constantly, and those are the people that are our biggest ambassadors and advocates for us. But yeah, it's such a domino effect, and the dual bonus is such a bigger deal because there's something in it for the person being referred, and before there wasn't. So like, why am I gonna, if somebody refers me to a restaurant and like, I don't really know about them, but there's something in it for me, I'm definitely gonna go.
Yeah, it definitely changes it a little bit. So I always tell the story of I used to work out of a share workspace in Denver called Galvanize, and they had a give half off rent, get half off rent. And I would never have talked about their referral program ever, or probably even been like, hey, come in. But every time somebody would talk about an office, I'd be like, well, I can get you half off rent for a month if you want to try it out. And because of that, it made us so more likely to talk about it. So
yeah, it's easier to talk about too. I think like it's not so hard if you're having to go down that route of the conversation. It's an easier sell, right? Because there's something in it for both people.
Yeah, sure. And it gives you more of a reason to post on social instead of being like, use my link so I earn some money. it's like, hey, use my link and get some extra cash. So like you get an extra bonus on top of that. So, we're big believers in the dual-sided aspect of it as well. So one of the last questions I had was just what would you recommend to staffing firms that want to get more referrals?
I think from what I hear, because I have friends like in the industry, I think what often we forget is that you have to keep talking about it. Like with any kind of program or software, it's like it's not just like a one and done situation. It's something that you keep nurturing it, and you get what you put in. So if you keep talking about it, you keep your recruiters on top of it, and you're telling all your nurses about it, and it's something that again is in your culture at that point. It's going to keep growing because you're growing it. It's like you plant the seeds, you're watering it, so it's going to keep coming up. So taking the time to really put forth the effort to make sure that it can be successful, you definitely need to do that.
Absolutely, and couldn't agree more on the consistent promotion piece, and that's why we're always trying to build more of that into the platform to make sure that it's happening automatically. But it's also when we look at companies that grow the fastest or get the most referrals, it's always the companies who have it as part of the dialogue with the recruiters. It's something they're measuring on a regular basis, looking at on a weekly basis with the recruiters. So it's super helpful information. Anything else that you'd like to share about Gifted or your journey on growing your referrals program?
Trying to think. I'm just super pleased that it's been I didn't even know that how successful it was going to be, but it really was. It was really bought in. we had a summit right before we launched Staffing Referrals where everybody came down. So we got to actually show them the platform before we even launched it. And everybody was excited about it. And so it really just like took off. And I was even surprised at the numbers as we started to roll in. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so we just keep watering it. We're like, grow, keep growing.
I obviously love hearing all of that, and I'm super happy. I mean, you guys have done an amazing job of training and implementing alignment on it, and it's super fun to work with you guys. So appreciate you jumping on today and having some conversation with us about sharing some of your insights on your referral program. So thanks so much.
Of course.
And with that, we're going to jump into the second part of the presentation where we're going to talk about the 7 tips to improve your referral program. Just give me 1 second. I'll jump right over here. So number 1, we've talked about this a little bit today, but really, know your audience. This seems like pretty basic information, but it's absolutely critical when you think about how are you designing your referral program. And one of the things that a lot of companies, they kind of talk about internally, but I think it's worth having conversations with your top brand ambassadors. So, identify who's referred the most people to you over the last year, reach out, set up a conversation with them, or have your recruiter have a conversation with them and ask what they would like. Ask what type of rewards would they like to see. In travel nursing, we typically see a 3-month payout, a lot of times around a $500 payout, or sometimes give 500, get 500. And when you go to light industrial, a lot of times we're seeing 40 hours to 80 hours. But I think it's worth taking note of the different kind of terms that you put in place around the referral programs. Some interesting things that we've heard from clients. I don't have any data to say if these are more effective or not, but we have had clients that have actually offered incentives, financial incentives for just qualified referral applications, or even qualified if it makes it to an interview or a submittal, that there's a payout on that front as well. So a couple different things you can think about there, and I think would be valuable when you're thinking about who your audience is and what do they want. Another piece of this would be just to look at where does your talent pool spend their time, and how do your candidates communicate with each other. So a lot of these, when we're talking with Rachel, a lot of the candidates are in travel nursing. They're spending time on the Facebook and the Gypsy Nurse, and they're using their phones a lot, so text message is a good platform, but it's important to think about how you communicate and make sure that the way you're communicating with them is going to reach them in an effective manner. Second step, research your competition. What I'd recommend on this front is you can look at the fastest growing staffing firms in your vertical. Staffing Industry Analyst has a great report that they do on this consistently, and it essentially will show you by vertical who are the fastest growing firms. From there, you could take a look at how they've structured their referral program and look at what referral bonuses are offered. The one thing I would recommend is, I would match or look to be close to the average bonus in your industry. I wouldn't be worried about paying the most for referrals. Having talked to hundreds of staffing firms about their referral program, I think the best story that kind of shares this is that we talked to one company who said they went from $100 per referral up to $2,000 per referral on a monthly basis to test and see where they would get the most placements. And after $200, everything was pretty much the same. So, while it might seem like having the most money out there for reward is going to get you more referrals, it really, a lot of what comes down to referrals is, do they like the recruiter? Do they like your brand? Do they feel like they're helping their friend out? And have you made it easy for them to do? So a lot of it comes down to that relationship over so much not as much the financial reward that's out there. Third step, make sharing easy. A big part of the referral program is making sure that other people, that the word can be spread. If you're relying on kind of the traditional way, it can be difficult because you're having to rely on somebody knowing when their friends are looking for jobs and being willing to share their friends' direct information immediately with you. If you're using a digital platform or an automated referral management platform, you are going to be able to have buttons that you can share. So you can share the referral program on social media. And I'd recommend this on your website, wherever you're talking about the referral program, is make it so it's easy for people to share that on social media with their networks. And then also consistently promote your program with monthly email updates. Another huge component is be transparent. One of the things, and actually I'm going to stay in the travel nurse segment for a little bit, but at TravCon, so like 4 years ago, talking to interviewing different nurses about their experience with referral programs. And what we learned was that sometimes they'll stop referring to certain companies, and they'll be actually, the referral process alone can leave a bad taste in their mouth and make it so they don't want to work somewhere and where they're not going to give referrals anymore. And the reason for this is I think referrals can be hard to track. And there were stories of, hey, I referred my friend to this company. I found out 6 months later, I found out she's working there and I never got paid my bonus throughout the entire process. And so it's important to make sure that you're being transparent with the candidates as they refer people in. One thing you can do is provide a dashboard online where people can view the referrals. Another way, if you're not using a full digital system, is you can actually just send email updates and make sure the recruiters are communicating the status of those referrals as they go through. Additionally, provide clear terms and conditions on the program upfront on the website. And the one thing we get a lot of questions about this is the eligibility of referrals. Make sure that it's easy to understand, but also if a referral isn't qualified, that you're communicating that quickly. I think that's an area where a lot of staffing firms kind of miss the ball, as they have a referral come in, they don't let their friend let them know that it's ineligible, and you can just communicate that quickly. If you interviewed the person yesterday and their friend refers them today, typically that's not going to go in as a referral, and I think it's just important to make sure that's communicated. So number 5, automate your communications. Quite a few things that go into this. We'll talk about just a couple. One of the things that you can do is you can trigger email campaigns that are workflows that come out on behalf of your recruiters. And you can usually trigger these from your ATS fields or through list uploads. And this is a great way to kind of standardize that process and make sure every candidate that you place gets the same invite and the same process going to the system, so that you know that you're not missing any referrals. When it comes to recruiters being required to ask for referrals, we know that while we might all have our best intentions and hope to get, hope that people ask on every call or with every placement, a lot of times this gets missed. So I highly recommend having standardized emails that go into the onboarding packages, and either triggering those or automating them out of your ATS or from list uploads. Additionally, you can use your email platform to automatically send email updates. I mentioned this actually on the last slide, but having just a monthly update of where, kind of a status update of where the referrals are, where, if I've referred 5 friends, a quick email that lets me know where those 5 friends are in the process, if I'm going to get paid out, or if that's something that I need to wait on. It kind of helps me be engaged with the program and will increase the number of referrals that you're getting overall. Number 6 was create win-win scenarios. You heard Rachel talk about this earlier, and I think this is a key component when we look at all of the companies we work with. Really opening up your referral program. A lot of times when we talk with staffing firms, they'll start with, oh, well, we only let people who are on contract or replaced refer people to us. And I always ask the question, why? By allowing anyone to refer people to your company, you are going to expand the number of referrals you're getting. And there's really, I've yet to find a good reason why you wouldn't want to allow somebody to refer somebody to work with you if they weren't currently on contract. Not that that's going to be the key driver for referrals, but it can be a pretty valuable. We've had stories with recruiters who, they said, actually one recruiter said that they got the most referrals from people who didn't take the job. And it was simply when somebody would say, oh, I'm not interested, the response was, oh, no problem. I understand it's not the right fit for you right now. If you happen to know anybody, use my link and you can earn some extra cash. And by doing that, they were able to expand their referrals and reach people they wouldn't have otherwise. We also talked about this a little bit earlier, but consider a dual-sided referral bonuses. 4 of the 5 most successful customers for staffing referrals are using dual-sided bonuses. And if you look at almost every modern referral program out there, if you go to Chase Bank, if you look at just any of the kind of new Silicon Valley startups, they're almost all using a dual-sided referral, which is where you do what's known as a give and a get. So in this instance, you're giving the referral applicant a bonus, and the brand ambassador, the person referring them in, also gets a bonus. And that's something that kind of moves the referral process from a selfish act into a win-win situation. Additionally, one of the things here that we've had, some of our customers had great success with, is using reviews to get referrals. So you could use a tool like Great Recruiters, which will help drive your reviews, help improve your reputation, and help you understand what's going on within your company on a day-to-day basis. But then those reviews can also drive people directly into the referral process. So we actually integrate with Great Recruiters, and when somebody leaves a positive review, then we ask for a referral because we know they like us and they would be more likely to do so. And with that, then we bring them into the digital referral program. So I highly recommend using some form of review to referral process. Last step, go digital. We mentioned it earlier, but the digital transformation, it's happening. It's happening faster than ever before. We all know that now we're all on Zoom. Never would have imagined I would see so many faces this year on Zoom, but we finally got all of us on looking at each other virtually. And I think that's just really the expectations from candidates. If I'm going to work somewhere, I expect that I can get most of my information digitally somehow. I think that we're seeing, the onboarding, payroll, everything is kind of shifting towards how can we provide more transparency up front. And I think that is no different than with the referral program. If I'm referring people in, I want to be able to track who I've referred, have I been paid, and if I haven't been paid, then I can follow up. So there's making sure that you're being transparent on that front is important. Also allows you to provide real-time updates to your candidates. With referral programs in general, when you're moving, when somebody moves to place, you've got to manually go remind the recruiter to go, update that nurse on when that person was placed. And with digital platforms, you can kind of skip that step as well. I won't go through all of these, but there's quite a few benefits by just kind of shifting to a digital referral program. And a lot of it comes down to saving time and scaling your referral program overall. So wanted to share a few benchmarks when we went back and looked at our data, all of our data, actually, and just give you some ranges on what you can expect when you launch a referral program. What we are seeing is that on average, there's about 15 brand ambassadors per recruiter. And there's somewhere between a 6% to about 20% referral applicant to close rate, which varies quite a bit by vertical and also by the business, but I thought it'd be nice for you guys to at least see a range for the close rates from a referral applicant. Additionally, brand ambassador accept rates are anywhere from 6% up to about 40%. So you can expect if you're inviting somebody to give a referral, this is them simply saying, yeah, like I accept, I'll be part of the brand ambassador program. And then lastly, what we see is typically it's, we have up to 57% more referrals with automated referral management. And we typically see a 20 to 60% lift pretty quickly, depending on how the program's implemented. So we are going to give all of you some time back in the day. We'll start off with some questions, but that is it for the tips and guidance on the how to improve your referral program. If anybody has any questions and wants to pop those into the chat, we will answer those now. And if not, we're going to give all of you 20 minutes back over your lunch period to go enjoy your day. I see one question here from Chad. He's asking, how long does it take to implement a automated referral management program? So what we typically see, this varies quite a bit by company. We've seen companies do it in as fast as 48 hours. That people who want to move quickly and have a clear idea of what their bonuses are and what this program look like. And then we have others where if you're doing a custom integration with the API, it could be a month to 3 months, depending on how big of scale you're going with the automation into your custom ATS. So we got a couple other, one other question. Somebody was looking at, which we talked about this a little bit, but they're wondering if we have any other ideas on how to get more referrals from people who aren't employed with us. Rachel, I don't know if you have any thoughts or stories on unique ways that people have gotten referrals from people that aren't currently working for you.
Well, definitely in the nursing side of things, I think we hit rejections more than we hit like yeah, I love that idea. I'm totally down for that assignment. So we look at a rejection as the perfect opportunity to then ask for a referral, whether that's in an email, a text, on the phone. And I've seen it happen where we've done like a phone blitz and people were getting told no, but instead they're like jotting down referrals because nurses are giving them referrals in that moment. So I think it's kind of like just shifting the narrative and thinking every time that you have a rejection, that's an opportunity.
I love that. I love that concept. And I also the other thing that I've seen is that just having the referral program open on your website where you invite anybody to join and refer people can be another activity that you can do to get more referrals.
Yeah, it's on our website and it's also in every communication we send out.
I was just seeing here if we have any other. I think that's actually it for questions for now. So I thank all of you for joining. Super excited to have you here today. And we will be sending out a recording. And Rachel, thank you again so much. Appreciate you joining and enjoyed the conversation as always.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks.